Welcome to Off Watch, our weekly interview series. This week, I got a chance to talk to Peter Burling and Blair Tuke, two of the biggest names in sailing at the moment. And I asked them about the last edition of the Ocean Race and their experiences on board Team Brunel and MAPFRE, also about sailing some of the coolest boats on the planet, plus how they reconcile with their legendary status. Now, if you enjoyed this interview, and I certainly did, you can subscribe to our channel for many more. And of course, in the comments below, we're taking your suggestions as to who we should talk to next. Enjoy. Thank you very much, guys. I know it is very, very, very early. 6 a.m. in Auckland at the moment. So understandably, you're getting ready for a full day. Where is it? Whereabouts are you? Are you training today?
Yeah, so we're in Auckland this morning. 6 a.m. We are actually at our boss of Live Ocean's house, the CEO of Live Ocean. We've got a board meeting in an hour. So that's how the day's going to start. So we sit on those board meetings as founders of Live Ocean, and then straight down to Team New Zealand after that, just to continue the development down there. So busy day, pretty standard.
I want to ask you about the Live Ocean thing in a minute, but before I do, it's incredible how much you guys managed to pack in. And when you kind of look back at your, everyone will be familiar with all your winning streaks and, 8, 9 world championship titles and all the rest of it. You've gone from like one to the other. And what I wanted to, my first question really was, Where did the ocean race get on that horizon? Because you go from Rio 2016, that goes quite well for you. You come back with a gold medal, well done. Then you go to Bermuda 2017, again, a good performance, come back with some nice silverware. Then pretty much you go straight into the ocean race, or the Volvo Ocean Race back then, and you go around the world. Did you get headhunted? Or was it just a case of you like to keep your foot on the accelerator? You like to just go from one thing to another thing? I mean, Blair, you did it with MAPFRE. Did you call them? Did they call you?
Yeah, I think it's something that we've, tried to do over our careers, is just, keep pushing ourselves. And, that's the beauty about our sport, is that there are lots of different types of it, of disciplines. So you want to challenge yourself in all the different disciplines. For me personally, I'd always had a ambition to do the race ever since I was probably first started sailing back in early 2000s. It had been a big passion of mine. We had a bit of experience, sort of just a taste of the race by being around the stopovers in 11, 12, and then 14, 15. And then 14, both those times actually was with Burling and Javi, the Spanish teams, really, through our connection to them through the 49er sailing. So had it there, sort of had jokingly said to Javi, give me a call, I'm always keen. And then, that call sort of came just before we raced in Bermuda for the Cup. So, it was really excited to join them. It was a good opportunity, joining a pretty established team. And, Pete obviously will talk to his experience now.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, in fairness, MAPFRE was quite an established team, and they had been doing things for a good while. Brunel, that you joined, that was quite a late decision. As it turned out, it was a formidable team. But what did it feel like jumping on that one? Am I right in saying it was a bit last minute, kind of people coming together?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the whole team was quite last minute, but for me it was a little bit different. I kind of wanted to get home after the Cup and enjoy that for a little bit, and then kind of try and plan out the next little while. I definitely think I quite enjoy being busy, and probably it's the same. Taking on different challenges and always having a fair bit going on. So you're never bored, for lack of a better way of describing it. But I think I really enjoyed taking up that opportunity. It was something that we figured we could make everything work and managed to jump on it and do a lap of the globe. So that's pretty. I suppose something that had always been in the back of your mind as a yachty, that would be really exciting to be able to do an ocean race and to be able to get on and do that one as quite a young person is something that was pretty cool. And for me, I ended up reaching out to a couple of teams and effectively the one at Brunel I thought was a really good offer. I kind of sat opposite Bowie in the watch. We had KP, who was incredibly experienced as well. So a couple of really experienced guys, but then a fair few kind of young guys on board as well, and girls for that matter. So it was, something that, we had a lot of work to do at the beginning of the race, and it was pretty cool to be able to see a group come together, start actually putting together some pretty good performances by the end.
Yeah, I mean, it did change as the race went on. I mean, you both kind of came to it from, towards the end, from different sides of the scoreboard, and I want to ask you about that experience in a minute. But you both said that you learned a lot about yourself, and you had to develop skills that maybe you didn't know that you had doing the race. I think I'm right in saying that Blair's done maybe a few more miles before the start of the ocean race. For you, Pete, what was the thing you found, having had, both of you having had so much success? What was the thing that you found? Oh, I'm going to need to get good at this, and I'm going to need to get good at it quick.
Yeah, well, I think there's the teamwork side of it. It's something that, when you're on, an ocean race, is effectively you're asleep half of the time almost. So, you've really got to be able to, have a lot of trust and, be able to pass on things that you've figured out and learn off your teammates. So it's quite a different dynamic compared to normal yachting in terms of how you interact and work with your team. And effectively, that they know that they can wake you up whenever you need, or you can wake them up whenever they need to. And, also you have that dynamic of, every now and then someone just gets screwed in the watch, whether it's, through a couple of peels going through the middle of their watch, or, so trying to look after the people and make sure that they're as well rested as they can be, was something that I think we started to do a pretty good job of at the end. Generally there's always someone walking around a bit like a zombie that's, hasn't had much sleep in the last day. So, really trying to make sure you give them an extra hour, or little bits and pieces when you can, and try and unload people when they're tired, and load people up when they're ready to go. And, I think it's something that, just all those little details, really make a massive difference with a group coming together. And, it's pretty, I think all the teams do a pretty low amount of training. So, to be able to train and learn and develop during the race was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting that everyone does talk about how much, if you could restart the race with everything by the final leg, it would be a very different outcome. I mean, for you, Blair, obviously MAPFRE was a bit of a different team. It was a different sort of dynamic. One of the things I do hear a lot of Olympic sailors and dinghy sailors say when they come and do the race is they have to learn that lesson of, it's a marathon and not a sprint. They kind of say, I burnt myself out in the first couple of days. What was your experience of being primarily that kind of sailing, all high octane, 100% all of the time? Did you find a good gear to get into the race?
Yeah, well, I think it's certainly something you have to be aware of. I was lucky I've done some longer races beforehand, so had that experience, and we did a bit more training before the race. And to be honest, the different legs on the races throw different things at you. So the sprint legs, like leg one, and then the last couple of legs are quite different, because you do have to be on for the whole leg basically. So if that's, I actually personally find those 2, 3, 4 day legs harder, because you can kind of see the engine shift or every increase or decrease in breeze you're reacting to and doing a sail change or a tack or a jibe. So those legs are a lot more challenging. I know the last leg we didn't sleep much at all, but even the first leg of the race, that was pretty challenging too. But the longer legs, once you get into your routine, and you can get people a bit more rested, and that's actually, I think you adapt, and obviously you learn it as you go. But I think we did a pretty good job of that from the start.
And Pete, I mean, you've both got a reputation for incredible amount of preparation and nailing your boat handling, your skills around the racecourse. For someone like yourself in Team Brunel, I mean, let's be honest, the first couple of legs were pretty ropey. What was the atmosphere like on board, and what was it like in your mind going, wow, we've come into this a bit late, and I really feel like we could be doing with some extra time? Or was the belief always there, unshakable?
Yeah, well, I think one of the good things about the race last time, and was you were in a one-design boat, so effectively you knew that all you had to do was sail the boat better than other people. And I'd probably almost counter one of your comments you made back to Blair before as well, that you see you didn't have to be at 100% the whole time. Like in these boats, you pretty much do have to be pushing it at 100% the whole time. And I think probably, part of our issue in those first couple of legs was that we weren't pushing, setups quite as hard as we should have been in certain times. And, it definitely, the contrast of how we sailed the boat at the end to the beginning was pretty stark. And, I think a lot of that, did come back down to those little details at times where, how quick you could peel, what conditions you could actually peel in, how quick you could set up for jibes and outriggers. And, there's so many little finicky details of these boats that, you're pretty much slowly developing systems over 8 months just so you can push the boat at, 100% the whole time and get to 100%, very, very quickly. So it's kind of, it'd be very interesting to go back and do, like you said, that first leg again and see how much quicker you could do it. Because I'm, betting it'd be a fair chunk.
Yeah, because by the time, of course, we got onto that final leg into The Hague, I mean, it was an incredible race. 3 boats, effectively tied. For you, Blair, on board MAPFRE, it was basically you, Dongfeng race team. That was going to be, one or the other for the first, few months. What did it feel like, rather than stretching out ahead? What did it feel like going, oh man, actually the other teams are kind of catching up with this? What was the atmosphere on board like when you realised it's not over? In fact, it's got harder.
Yeah, I don't think we ever thought it was over. It's we got off to a pretty good start, but you still, when we got to Melbourne, we'd done 1 double points leg, but you still had, still 2/3 or maybe even 3/4 of the points on the table. So, we knew we got off to a good start, but we, I think we, where we probably let ourselves down was just didn't, capitalise through the middle stages of the race on that, and let other people get in. And obviously we had the issues in the Southern Ocean, which, really hit us hard. And the second Southern Ocean leg when we couldn't push the boat at 100%, which is pretty gutting. And then, we made some bad decisions in the next double points leg, which, so, those two really, if we look back at, what we did badly, it was those two legs. And then towards the end of the race, we actually, sailed really well again. So, yeah, it was challenging sort of coming into the end. And once Brunel had caught us up, but it was also exciting for the race, I think. And it still didn't really change anything for us. We, had to try and go put our best foot forward on that last leg, and, we gave it a pretty good shot. But it was, what an awesome finish to the race for people watching, not so enjoyable for probably those of us doing it.
Oh, it was definitely, from the spectator's point of view, it was fabulous. So thank you very much for that. But you both have a really strong reputation for being able to analyse and look back and be very kind of matter of fact about the sailing that you've done before and where you've got done wrong and where you've done right. Is there anything that you look back at the ocean race and you go, look, sailing aside, performance aside, wow, what an incredible day that was, what an incredible view, to experience that moment? Because you do go to some places and see some things that very few people do. I mean, Pete, have you walked away with anything where you're like, yeah, that's a postcard to put away in my mind?
Yeah, well, I think, for me, probably going around Cape Horn was, one of the really special moments of the race. Obviously an incredibly tough leg, not just in weather sense, but probably you definitely had the lows of the race in that leg with the news of fish going overboard, which was incredibly sad. But then to be able to carry on and actually get back to land, was something that I think was probably one of our high points of the race. We kind of pretty much figured that the best way to get back to land and get back to safety was to keep going and to get around the horn and try and do them proud. But to actually see land there and see the Chilean Navy and probably the most iconic landmark of the race was a pretty incredible memory that I don't think I'll forget. And I think Blair spent a lot more time trying to soak in the memory and fix the mainsail at Cape Horn than I did. We just carried on past and had a little bit of rum and then carried on north into some more horrible conditions. But it's a pretty special part of the race.
Yeah, and something that very few people get to do. I mean, you guys, when you're out there on the race, you do spend a lot more time looking at just water from horizon to horizon, maybe with another ocean race boat if you're lucky. I mean, because I know that, recently, last year, November, I think it was, you guys have founded this Live Ocean initiative to try and sort of accelerate ocean health in New Zealand. Was it kind of brewing in your mind there with some of the experiences that you had sort of, in those remote places where you get to see this incredible canvas? Was it a thought that kind of occurred to you then?
Yeah, well, I think we've both been passionate about the ocean since we were kids, really. We're very fortunate in New Zealand to grow up, both of us right by the ocean in different parts of New Zealand. Myself right in the far north and Pete in the Bay of Plenty. But yeah, I think the whole way through our careers, we've sort of always, looked at the ocean and thought about the ocean and more than just using it for our sport. But, I think it'd be fair to say that the ocean race did accelerate our thinking there. And when we came back and, thought about those next steps, like Pete talked about before, trying to plan what the next things were, it was definitely trying to do more for the ocean. We weren't happy with the direction it was heading, in the negative way. So we sort of came back and sort of said, okay, let's do more. And for us to have the big worldwide sort of influence, we thought the best way to do that was for New Zealand to lead by example. We have a beautiful ocean space here in New Zealand, a really massive ocean, fourth largest in the world, and in a special part in the South Pacific. So, we thought we want to, sort of showcase that to the world and lead by example. But as we started getting into it more, it wasn't quite in the shape we thought it was, so we have to first, sort it out here before we do that. So, yeah, it's been an interesting journey since November, or even since the race when we looked at doing it first and got towards the launch. And yeah, we're into it now.
And I mean, you've got a pretty powerful platform because, you've been out there. I mean, I'm assuming you're pretty big names in New Zealand. You certainly are in the rest of the world. For you, Pete, how much take up have you had? Is it something that's slowly building, or have you already been able to go, this is happening. We've already been able to do some good.
Yeah, well, it's almost how long's a bit of a string one as well. It's been incredible to see what we've been able to achieve in this, a few months we've been up and running, and, definitely getting a lot of momentum on a lot of things. But, the more you dive into these issues, the more you realise how much the ocean actually does for us on a day-to-day, whether it's, oxygen production or heat absorption, are probably the two big ones, associated with climate that no one even considers that, if it wasn't for the ocean, we'd be having some serious issues with how hot the planet was getting, right now. But, I think also linking it back to the race on your previous question, for me, it was more around what we didn't see. We talk about to people that have gone around the globe in the past, and, you talk about the amount of whales you see, the amount of bird life, tuna jumping, things like that. I could count the amount of whales I saw on one hand. There weren't very many albatross in the bottom of the Pacific. So, we were definitely very passionate about, our first project, being an albatross-related one. We've got New Zealand's probably one of the albatross capitals of the world, with a lot of, albatross species actually nesting in our sub-Antarctic islands. So it's pretty amazing to be able to pick up that. But, it's definitely, one that the ocean is this massive blind spot. We do look out on the surface, and it is very hard to tell what is actually going on out there. And, the more you talk to the science community, the more you kind of talk to people that have done things like the ocean race in the past. And you really actually get that baseline of how quickly things have shifted in the last kind of 50 odd years. So it's, something that we felt like, we had to get into it. We've obviously got a fair bit on at the moment, but, it felt like it was a pretty important issue to get behind, and to try and get people aware, and try and actually create some change.
And something that clearly you're both passionate about, and with so many of your projects that you do together. I mean, I know in the ocean race, obviously we're on different boats, racing against each other, but so many of your results you share. Is it a happy accident that you do so much of these things together, or is it a case of, if I'm going to do this, I need my right-hand man with me? I mean, Blair, if you get the call, do you say, I'm coming, but you should give Pete a call? He's pretty good too.
Yeah, I think for the most part, it's because we're, passionate about and pretty driven to try and achieve things. And, with the live ocean stuff, we really want to see change in the ocean space. So, yeah, I think the point before, that the ocean race is probably the one thing in the last 12 years, or one of a handful, but definitely the biggest thing we haven't done together. So that was interesting. I think we both quite enjoyed it at the stages of our lives we're at. We went to some pretty cool cities around the world, and I think the difference for us when we were at those cities was that we actually just hung out as mates and enjoyed it. Went surfing at different places, hiking or whatever it was. Had some good times, and because you couldn't talk about the racing side of it because we were competing against each other. It was that was probably just a fresh change for us. But I think definitely had a pretty cool journey. Since we started out when Pete was 17 or something, I was 18 or 19, and that's taken us some great different parts of the world. And like you talked about before, the ocean race took us some place that some people have never been. So yeah, you're grateful for your journey, but you're also looking ahead to what you can do next, and keep trying to achieve, and for us to take New Zealand to the world. Yeah,
because you've both been doing this. You've both had the New Zealand flag on your back for a good while, and it's interesting to hear you say that it was almost a pleasant change of gears when you were doing the ocean race, because you couldn't talk about the race. I mean, Pete, are you? Is it a partnership between the two of you that works really well because you are the same? You both want to discuss the technical for hours afterwards, or is it a good partnership because one of you's one way and one of you's the other way, and you kind of temper the passion and the commitment quite nicely?
I definitely think we're both quite different people, but it's probably both share similar passions, if that makes sense. I think we both really enjoyed sailing, being out on the ocean, and also enjoyed getting below the ocean and having a bit of diving, surfing, kind of a lot of what New Zealand has to offer in terms of an outdoorsy sense. And I think we're both very driven people as well. We quite enjoy taking on a challenge and having a kind of a decent goal to aim at. So it's something that we've kind of probably gone through a lot of experiences together over the past few years as well. So no, it's obviously done a lot of sailing with Blair. So it's we've got a little bit to come.
Yeah, it's like asking the question to tell a little bit about yourself when you ask that. It's quite hard. We've spent so much time together, and pretty much any time, it's all. So it feels like you're kind of asking, tell on an interview, tell us about yourself and how you are when you ask one of us how the other, how the other person is, or how we sort of operate together.
No, I completely understand that, and I can totally respect why that's a little hard and potentially a little bit prying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double down on that, and then you can tell me to bugger off. Because one of the things, as I was sort of alluding to before, is like your temperament. It's so, you're reputed to have this incredible ability to just push it out and just focus on. And I'm thinking back to like those amazing America's Cup press conferences where, Peter's the skipper's got to get wheeled up there and got to fire all these questions. You have this beautiful line, well, for ourselves, we've done really well, but there's more to do. We're working pretty hard. And every single answer was always that. Blair, just, how much of what we see Pete put in front of the camera, how much of that is the real him? How much of it is just a sort of a tactical mental block?
No, yeah, that was Pete for sure. That was, that was people asking questions, and I guess he was just answering in an honest way, and he did a good job for the team there in those press conferences. I think we were quite lucky, or for me personally, those whole America's Cup experience was quite different than any of the Olympic stuff, because it was kind of Pete sort of faced all that and had all the, the meeting, did a great job with the press conferences. And then for the rest of us team we're basically next to no, pressure from that side of it, which was quite a change for me from the Olympics and all the previous couple of Olympics. So, my role after the, racing was more around, obviously getting into make sure all the other boys are all good on the boat, and then, debriefing well and stuff like that. But Pete did a great job of that side of it for us. But yeah, that was him.
Okay, so Pete, you've done a great job. That's what Blair says. And I think everybody was looking at that and you go, oh, great. And we all know that all young sailors who are coming up from multiple different nationalities get media training. How do you deal with the pressure? Do you try and turn it into it's good for my headspace, just to sort of not really engage too much? Or is it a case of I'm going to mess with the other person's headspace? And I'm kind of alluding to something you did here in the America's Cup, where Jimmy Spithill was being interviewed by someone and you took a lovely moment to walk behind him. And if I've got my days and times right, I think you just won the first 2 races, and I think you gave a V sign as you walked past him in behind in an interview. Is that just naturally you, or is a little bit of it kind of just messing with the other guy?
No, I think it's more as naturally me. It's just you got to take a bit of lightheartedness to these things. Half the questions you get asked in an America's Cup press conference you can't really answer anyway because you're giving too much away. So you're either answering them short or kind of answering them in a way that doesn't really give much away anyway. So it's the boats are so complicated and technical that if you answered everything in full, you just couldn't.
You'd be there for 10 hours.
Yeah, you'd be there for too long. I think Jimmy's a great guy, a great competitor as well. So it's going to be pretty exciting to race him again. And a lot of the people that were at the front of the Emirates Cup last time round are just arriving back in Auckland this time. So definitely that excitement's kind of coming up. But yeah, it's having a bit of fun really, and just trying to let the performance on the water do the talking rather than in the press conferences. Because
there is this sort of thing that everybody in the media, love to play up the rivalry. This is it, 2 people, they're going to lock horns, they're going to go for it. But the truth is, actually, a lot of these people you have grown up with and you have sort of maybe traded podiums with, but also you've gone training with. And the one that comes to mind for me is Nathan Aldridge from Australia, Ian Jensen as well. Those guys, obviously on the podium for the Olympics, they get gold, you get silver, you get gold, they get silver. And it would appear for people looking in, wow, they must just be like daggers and wow. But actually, in the sailing world, you guys train together, you work together. There's a camaraderie and a kind of friendship there that I don't think we really appreciate. Blair, what's your sort of take on that?
Well, I think our relationship with Nathan Googs, was pretty special. And when was it? About 2010, we started training with them. So 2 years out from the London Olympics, they sort of took us on as training partners. We probably got 17th at the World Champs, I think. So we're, quite far off, not necessarily a challenge for them at that stage for their gold medal hopes, but, good enough to sort of help them to improve. We sort of looked at it in a different light and sort of go for the best guys and try and learn and as much as we can from them. So, we improved a heck of a lot over those couple of years. But that meant training a lot together and, obviously competing against each other. So grow a lot of respect and friendship through that. And then, went on to, for them to win the gold medal and us to get the silver medal. And then, I think through the next campaign, we didn't have quite as much to do with them because they were obviously involved with Artemis and we were, just joined Team New Zealand. But to then carry that on into the America's Cup was, pretty cool. And some of those races versus Artemis and the Cup were probably, or in the Challenger Series were probably some of our best ones. And it was great to lock with those guys again. And when you're on the water, it's all, you want to get one over them for sure. But then it's you got that respect afterwards, and that's the same with a lot of people we race against.
Yeah, completely. And I can imagine, well, I've seen it, this sort of myth that follows you guys and loads of other athletes from a variety of different sports. I mean, let's try and sort of dispel that a little bit. So, Pete, obviously you and Blair, friends, partners, but also two human beings. And you, like everybody I know, put out this image of, we're strong where we're strong, we're invincible where we're invincible. And, you've got the results to back it up. But surely you also have flaws like anybody else. So a couple of quick questions then. I mean, when was the last time that you guys had when was the last time either of you lost your temper with each other on the boat? When was the last time you had an argument on the boat, Pete?
Well, I think it's a hard one to really describe, but
it'd be the touch rugby field would be the last time.
Yeah, we're both pretty competitive, to be fair. But it's something that, a lot of people, you've got to be able to challenge the other one. And, actually, that's a big part of learning, and you can't be, I think a lot of people are very passive in that regard. You've got to be able to have a good discussion and, get to the bottom of something, actually improve. So it's something that, I don't think we ever really have big arguments on the boat, but we're not afraid of, saying when something's happened or when we don't think something's working, or having a good discussion about something and actually trying to get to a good outcome, if that makes sense. But probably like Blair said, we're definitely pretty competitive when it comes to other things, and touch fields, have some good battles on that occasionally. Hopefully we get out of this our 10 people max together kind of rules in New Zealand COVID at the moment, so we get back into it.
And Blair, have you guys ever done that wonderful thing that so many of us have done, where you've rounded the final mark and you've gone, yes, one more lap to go before you go to the finish, whereas everyone else goes to the finish line and beats you? Have you ever missed the finish line, or those classic mistakes that we all make?
Just your classic.
Yeah, we have done that at some stage, not for a while. We used to do before the London Olympics, we used to do quite a lot of 4-lap races. So it was a little bit harder to count, but no, not for a while. But that would be, it's not like that's one person's responsibility or the other, anyway. And I think to Pete's point before, you kind of, as soon as you set a goal, you're both going towards that goal, and you both want the same thing. So if someone brings something up and should, rightly so, should be able to challenge the other person, it's because they, think that that's going to enable you to get to your goal better. So I think we sort of both approach things like that and just trying to improve as people and as sailors the whole time. And then that enables you, I think, to take that sort of, it's not criticism, it's just, advice or whatever it is on, and then hopefully improve and get there.
And Pete, I mean, with everything that you guys do, and you've got to appreciate the fact, I'm sure you do, that the boats that you guys have sailed on are a lot of people's dream boats. Oh my God, I'd love to be on that boat once before I die. Pete, do you ever get the chance to sort of, turn to Blair and just be like, yeah, this is pretty, racing aside, training aside, this is pretty good. This is a good day on the water.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're definitely pretty lucky in that regard, especially with the cup boat at the moment. It's pretty incredible to see the development and just the performance numbers that are actually happening out there, and not just on our boat, on the other boats as well. American Magic's in New Zealand now. Team UK will be down here pretty soon. They've got a lot of people on the ground. Prada's in the process of shipping, so they're not too far away as well. So it's definitely been a pretty incredible boat to develop, and to try and get that concept from nothing, and been some pretty special moments. Probably not just with Blair. We've got some pretty other good friends on board that boat that we've been through a lot with as well. So it's pretty cool to be able to go on a journey like that with a pretty good group of mates. So it's something that you definitely feel like we're pretty lucky, especially given the current climate where a lot of sporting events aren't happening, things like that. So for us, it's been a pretty interesting change to go from probably doing the Olympics a month ago, to jumping back into more having kind of a slow progressive build up to the America's Cup and have the calendar shuffled a little bit. So it's but it's been pretty cool to be able to spend a bit of time at home, put a bit more time into live ocean, which we're incredibly passionate about, and spend a few more days out on the water, with our America's Cup team, and really push the development on that boat.
I'm sure there's loads that I'd like to ask about the boat, and I'm absolutely positive you can't give me answers to any of them. So Blair, I'll just ask you this.
Yeah, he already gave you the precursor on that. He told you already.
But the problem is the more you say that, the more it makes me more curious. But I know I'm not going to get anywhere, so I won't waste the time. But Blair, let me just ask you this: the new boat, with everything you've done, I mean, you've been down to the Southern Ocean, you've done all that, but on these foils, hurtling along, has that boat ever scared you guys?
Yeah, I guess the word scares, quite strong. I think you definitely got respect and appreciation. You know what the consequences are if it doesn't go well or you don't control it well. So I think having that understanding and not letting that get too far away from you when you are pushing hard is pretty key, because there are big loads on things. The boats are going fast. You got there's 11 of us on board the boat, so you got to and all the team on shore and the designers that have put a lot of effort into it. So you have to have respect and that sort of appreciation of how close to the edge you're pushing, but you can't let that hold you back, I don't think, because otherwise you're not going to push the development and push the boat hard enough. So it's kind of a fine line, and in the Southern Ocean it's the same with obviously the boats probably weren't, they're obviously not as far up the sort of innovation as these boats are, but you're in nature more, so you're far away from land. So there's risks, and that's slightly different. But yeah, in the Southern Ocean, you've got to understand that and have that same sort of respect of what you're dealing with as well.
It's interesting that you bring up the Southern Ocean, because, of course, for the next edition, we've got the 65, and we're going to have the Amoka. I know the foils are very different to what you guys are doing with your cup boats, fully foiling. The Amoka, it's kind of foil assisted. And we do get those kind of videos that almost lie to us that the boat is kind of flying, but, realistically, it's working in a different way. I mean, one of the things that the sailors are always wondering, well, certainly I am, what the hell happens when you take this thing into the Southern Ocean? You guys have been there. I mean, Pete, if I gave you an Amoka with one of these foils, as somebody that knows a lot about foils, Moth World Champion, what the hell are these things going to be like? And could you imagine doing that yourself?
Yeah, well, I think you're probably better off asking someone that's done a few crossings in the Amokas, but, from chatting to Kyle a little bit, sounds like the motion's pretty random and pretty violent at times. I think you're definitely pretty happy to be downstairs under a cabin. But you're definitely the speeds are going up drastically compared to what they were last time in the 65. I think that's something that's pretty interesting. Be from our side probably dampen down the motion. A lot of the foiling boats we sail on have a T rudder, so you've got that bit of stability. Where the Amoka doesn't really, and you're relying on all the stability to come from the foil at the front and the hull. So you kind of end up with these big, slamming kind of random motions. But they're definitely pretty cool boats, and I think it's been amazing to see the journey those boats have gone on in the last little while as well. Obviously, that rule's been out for a very long time, but to see how much quicker and how differently people are sailing them now to probably they were, even when the last BND Globe was, not too long ago. So, it's been a pretty interesting time to be a yachty, I think, especially in the development side of the sport, just seeing how, quickly things are evolving, how, quickly people are figuring out how to make boats go a lot quicker. And, it's something that it'll be interesting to see where it goes over the next couple of years.
You guys are doing a lot that overlaps. You've got the AC, you've got the Tokyo Olympics. I wonder, with the delay to the Tokyo Olympics, is that something that, how mapped out was your approach to Tokyo? Were you there? Were you ready to sort of, peak, as they say, in that Tokyo time? And now it's pushed the other time. It's like, oh, that's good for the Cup. Or is it a case of every single time you're going out on the America's Cup boat, you're thinking, oh, we really need to keep our 49er skills on the boil and, go out in the afternoon? I mean, how difficult is it now juggling two things like that?
Yeah, I think it is. Well, it's certainly been a big shift on the calendar, that's for sure. For us, like you said before, we were actually pretty geared up for this year. We'd done the World Champs here in Auckland in December, that went up in Geelong in February, and we had a good few months planned to peak in Tokyo. But pretty early on in COVID, I think we realised that it was probably going to get shifted, and at that stage we just sort of shifted our mindset into, okay, we're going to, what we're going to have to try and win is going to be different than what it was going to do. And I don't think we hung on for it too long, and pretty quickly we just shifted our mindset. And it's an exciting challenge we've got to deal with now, instead of being sort of us doing America's Cup and Olympics straight for this year. We've a lot more time into the Cup now, and then we're going to hit the 49er pretty hard next year. So yeah, it's a good challenge, and still right geared up for it. Don't think that's not the case for a second. We're very driven to try and win another gold medal for our country. So yeah, we're just excited by the new challenge, I think.
Well, I'm very conscious of the time, guys, because I've got to let you go in a minute. I know you've got a full day planned, but just finally, one quick question then. Pete, a lot of people, I think, look at Olympic sailors, professional sailors, certainly people that get to sail on some really cool boats. And, we're pretty jealous. It's so amazing. You get to do all this, you get to do all that. I'm sure there's a lot of hard work that goes on, and sometimes it can be a real grind. Just briefly, is what you do with the ocean race, America's Cup, Olympics and everything, does it feel like a grind, or does it just feel like, well, this is pretty good?
Yeah, we definitely enjoy it. It's something that, I think one of the keys to doing well in our sport is to, really enjoy what you do and, try and make the most of it. It's probably not quite the same as what a lot of people think it is. Definitely a lot of my role on the Cup side is, trying to make sure we're taking the right amount of risk in a lot of areas, and really making sure we keep the loads in check and keep the boat in one piece. So it's, something that, and there are so many people on that team that have a big influence on the outcome. So it's not like, you're just wheeling your 49er down to the boat ramp and going for a sail. It's kind of, for us in the Cup environment, every time you go sailing, there's probably, 60 people out on the water. Maybe not 60, 40 probably. Yeah. 40, yeah, 40.
Still more than two, either way.
Yeah, so it's, and a lot of those people have an influence on it. We've got 11 people on the boat, and a few other engineers, people monitoring loads, and some people monitoring from back into base. So no, it's I think the one thing we enjoy about sailing at the moment though is that diversity. Whether it's going for a sail in a dinghy or going out for a foil on a hand wing kind of setup, or whatever. It's kind of there's so many really cool ways of being able to get out there at the moment, and you have a lot of fun. But everything's not comes with a lot of hard work as well. So I think you really get that enjoyment out of it for once you've actually put in the hard work.
I'm sure I couldn't put in as much hard work as you guys do, but nevertheless, I'm still jealous. Thank you very much, guys. I know you've got a full day planned. All the best with Live Ocean, all the best with the America's Cup. Of course, the 49er again in Tokyo, and everything else that we're going to be seeing you guys doing. Thanks very much for today.
Thanks for having us on. Cheers, Niall.
Thanks, Niall.
Well, many thanks to Peter Burling and Blair Tuke for taking the time out of their very busy schedule to talk to us this week. I hope you enjoyed that interview. If you do, subscribe to our channel. We have ones coming out every week. And in the comments below, we'd love to hear from you about who we need to interview next and what questions we need to ask. We'll see you next time.